Welcome back, everyone. I'm Travis, and today we've got another great upgrade for the bomber. If you guys are going to be putting any kind of accessories on this bomber that require power, you're going to have to do this. Stay tuned. Come on! Come on! Here we go! So check it out, guys. We want to add two more accessories to the bomber. One of them is going to be this light bar we're going to install up here. And the other one is going to be a Vanquish Hertz version 2 dig. Now, both of these accessories here that we're going to add, both these upgrades are going to require an open channel on the receiver. The stock SR515 receiver that this comes with is not going to do it for us. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to install a Spectrum SR515 receiver into this. That way we've got channels for everything, and we're going to have one extra left over for something else. I don't know what the next upgrade is going to be, guys. Anyway, let's get into it. So here it is, the Spectrum SR515 5-channel receiver. Here's the part number for anybody that's interested. It's an SPM SR515. This is a DSMR 5-channel sports surface receiver, and it retails for about $64 US. Now this little guy comes in at 1.8 by 0.84 by 0.53 inches, making it pretty tiny. And the weight on this is just 6 grams, or just a hair under 1/4 of an ounce. Now this will also do the DSM2 as well as the DSMR modulation. Like I said, it's 5 channels. The bandwidth for this is 2.4 gigahertz. The input voltage is 3.5 to 9.6 volts. And it's got a great little button right here that makes it super easy to connect to your transmitter. Okay guys, the one thing I did not say about this receiver is that it's waterproof, because it is not waterproof. So you're going to want to take some conformal coating and go ahead and put that on your board here to make it waterproof. Now there's a certain procedure to this so you don't screw this up, okay? You don't want none on your jacks here where the JR connectors go, and you don't want it in your button either. So I have a great video on this exact SR515 receiver where I show you how to put conformal coating on there and not screw anything up and make it very waterproof. Now besides that, guys, I just want to let everybody know that I will be putting links to everything I use here today in the description, as well as the receiver, all of my connectors, my Y connectors, and all that stuff. Let's get after it. So the first thing we're going to want to do is go ahead and get rid of this body here. Now, I know a lot of you guys that are watching this are probably way more advanced than that. If you're putting this receiver in, you've probably already done this or know how. But for everybody who doesn't, I'm just going to go over this real quick. So you have 3 screws right here, 3 Allens I should say, on the bottom. You're going to want to take all 3 of these out on both sides. Other than that, right underneath the receiver here, there are 2 Allens here that are pretty long. You're going to want to take those out. And then you're also going to need to disconnect your shocks at the bottom here at the axle on both ends. And if you do happen to have a anti-rock setup going on, you're going to need to disconnect that from your axle as well. On mine here, I've got it disconnected, and I just went ahead and put a bungee through there to keep everything straight, and I'll just fold it up out of the way like that. So let's go ahead and get this body off, and then we can see what's going on down below. Sorry guys, I neglected to mention you're probably going to have to take off your tires and wheels to be able to access this Allen right here that connects the lower portion of your shock shaft to your axle. Also, if you are running the stock Dynamite ESC that this bomber came with, it comes with 2 pigtails sticking out of the ESC here that are meant to power your lights. One for the rear brake light, and the other one powers the front LED and the 2 rock lights. So go ahead and take these off, disconnect them so that you can get your entire body off and out of the way. It's going to make things a lot easier. Number 2, if you are still running this Dynamite stock ESC on here, it's held on with 2-way tape on the bottom, and from the factory on an RTR vehicle, they have slid this ESC all the way to the back so that your battery box has plenty of clearance and it's not going to hit or have any issues. Well, the issues that this causes is that the 2 Allens in the back that are necessary to get the lid off of your receiver box are covered by this ESC. So you'll probably need to take a razor blade or something and very gently pry this up with a screwdriver, get it off, and then go ahead and scrape it off. And just put two-way tape back on when you're putting it on here. Now a trick, if you are going to use the stock same ESC again, go ahead and just mount it with your two-way tape on top of the lid so you're just barely missing them Allens, and you should still have enough room to clear the battery box so everything is good. Now, as you guys can see, I'm not running the stock Dynamite ESC. I've got a Hobby Wing Quick Run 1080 on here, and I love it, but we don't need to get into that right now. And the way that my lights are set up is I've got an extension coming out of the receiver sitting here at my wheel so that I can just go ahead and take my lights and plug them directly into this. And we'll get into that on the next video when I'm showing you how to put the light bar on there and the way that I do a custom switch setup. Now, what we're going to need to do is access these 4 Allens right here to go ahead and get the lid off of our receiver box. Now, once you get the last Allen out of the cover for this receiver box, just go ahead and gently flop everything right over on its side to get it out of the way, and there you go. Now you can see our 315 hidden down in there. We're going to go ahead and remove this. Now this is probably held on with two-way tape as well, and after we remove it, we'll go ahead and pull this waterproof white or clear cover out where all of the wires are going in, and then we can go ahead and put two-way tape on our 515 and stick it back down in the same relationship. Well, there you go. We got the 315 out, and I would like to mention, all I had to do was put my finger underneath the front of the receiver here, and it popped it right off that two-way tape like nothing. So no big deal there. We got our 515 just sitting right here. I want to go ahead and show you guys how to bind this to the transmitter. That's why I left it out. Now, you're going to need to plug in your ESC to the receiver to be able to power it up. If you're running a gas-powered vehicle, they do have an option on this receiver. Right here on the very bottom, it says battery. That's where you can plug in one of those battery boxes that take the 4 AA batteries, and that'll go ahead and take care of it. But all we're doing is plugging in our ESC to the receiver in the throttle position. That'll give us all the power we need for this. Now, I went ahead and plugged in my servo for the steering as well. That way, once our transmitter and receiver are bound, we can check out the steering and make sure that everything works. So let me go ahead and show you how to do that. Now, depending on the transmitter that you guys are using, this may be just a little bit of a different process or some different steps you might need to take, but all transmitters are pretty much going to keep the same similar type process. Anyway, today I'm going to be using a Spectrum DX5C to do this, and I'll go ahead and zoom in on my screen so you guys can see what I'm doing. Okay guys, now if you're running the stock DX3 that your Bomber came with, it's going to look like this. And I'm not sure if you've ever even noticed this button before, but right here next to the button it says bind, just behind your steering wheel. So that's the button that you're going to hit once you set up your receiver to go ahead and bind the transmitter to the receiver, and they should recognize each other and bind fairly quickly. Now, I had mentioned that there's a bunch of different transmitters out there, guys. Here is my DX5C. I absolutely love this thing. It works really good. But on this one, when we go to bind, it offers us another choice. Let's go ahead, oops, sorry about that. Let's go ahead and come down this menu here until we see bind and frame. There we go. If you come down here, you'll notice there's a frame rate right here. So if I click on that, we have the option of 22, 16.5, or 11 ms. Now, which one is the best for you? Well, let me explain something to you. All servos are a little bit different depending on whether they're digital or analog or DSMR or DSMR2. So you're going to want to know which one works best with your servo. Now, a good rule of thumb is that you're always going to want to have the fastest frame rate possible, which is the highest number. That's going to give you the fastest response time between the transmitter and the receiver, and also the lowest amount of lateness. Now, you'll know if your servo is not accepting this frame rate because it'll act sporadically and it'll just jump around, or it may not work at all. So you're going to want to take and adjust your frame rate to where your servo works the best. And like I said, the highest number is the best. 22 ms would be the fastest if your servo will accept that. Now, what they're saying here is 22 ms is needed for older analog servos but works well with DSMR receivers. 16.5 ms needed for older analog servos works well with DSM2 surface receivers, and 11 ms offers good response rates and is compatible with most digital and analog servos. This is the default position, by the way, and it works well with DSMR. So it just depends on your servo which one's going to be able to accept the fastest frame rate that you can go with. For us today, we're going to go ahead and set ours for 22 and see if our servo will accept that. And then all we got to do is scroll down here to bind. We're all ready to go. Now we can just set our receiver up, and then when it's time, we'll hit bind, and they will communicate really fast together, and you'll be bound. Let's go ahead and do that. So once you've plugged a battery into your ESC and you're all ready to go ahead and grab your receiver and push down on this button, and you might have to push pretty hard, and then go ahead and turn your car on. Now when you do that, your receiver is going to start blinking like this. Once you hit that bind button on your transmitter, there you go. They're trying to communicate right now. Once the light turns solid, you're good to go. Let's go ahead and try our steering out now and see if our steering works here. Oh, it does. Okay, guys, we are bound up. That was successful. First time, no problem. I love these SR515s. So once you've bound your receiver and your transmitter together, the only thing really left to do, guys, is put some fresh two-way tape back on the bottom of your receiver and stick it back down in there. Now, as far as your antenna lead that's coming out, you could take and drill a small hole in the top of your receiver box there and add one of those plastic antenna tubes, but you'd probably have to route it through all the framework and everything to get it to come out. It's just kind of a pain in the ass, and I've been running these with the antenna wire just wound up inside the receiver box for a long time and had no problems. I can go as far as I can see the car. I've never lost it due to antenna loss. So I don't see that being an issue. Other than that, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to stick this 9-inch extension back into auxiliary port number 1 so that I can go ahead and set my lights up for that. And then I've still got auxiliary port number 2, which will be our other accessory, which, what's that going to be? That's going to be our Hertz dig, which I'm very excited about. And then we've got one more auxiliary port as well to plug something else into, which whenever we find out what that is, I'm sure it's going to be used. So guys, that is pretty much it. That's going to wrap up this installation of the SR515 receiver into our bomber. I hope you guys learned something. I had a great time. If you guys have any questions or anything, please, as usual, don't hesitate to comment down below. I will get back with you as soon as possible. It may not be right away, but I promise I will get back with you, and I will answer your question to the best of my abilities. If I can't answer your question for you, I'm going to send you in the right direction where you can get your question answered. Well, guys, it's a little bit cloudy out here today. I don't think I'm going to put it back together and go run a little bit. I'm actually going to leave this apart because I want to go ahead and set up my light bar and everything, and I'm going to have to run my lights back down into connect to that 9-inch extension I've got coming out of the receiver box, which is going to make it easy. That way we don't have to keep opening up our receiver box to unplug and plug in the light. This will make it really simple. That's our next video coming up right after this one. Guys, stay tuned. I am Travis. You're watching Upgraded RC. Peace out.